Munchausen by proxy. So, what is it? Basically, it's when a parent will poison their kid so the kid looks sick and it looks like they develop different diseases or flus. It is a form of medical child abuse. And it's messed up, man. It's so wrong. So how the heck did it start? Okay, so there's this guy named Baron von Munchausen, and he made up these crazy stories. Like he said he would ride cannonballs, and he also said that he went to the moon in the 1800s. Since he was known for always making things up, when Munchausen syndrome was discovered, they named it after him because of his tall tales. Kind of a slap in the face for him. So what are the symptoms? Basically, you can look at this at two ways. One, what symptoms are shown in the child, and then what symptoms are shown in the parent. We'll start off with the kid. So, the kid might have a really weird medical record with all these bizarre symptoms and cases that just don't seem to line up. You'll notice that the kid will seem to heal or get better when the parent is away from them because the parent can no longer inflict whatever it is that was causing the kid to get sick. The symptoms usually don't agree with what the tests show because the symptoms are fabricated, but they look real. Another symptom is that chemicals are often found in the blood or urine of the kid. As for the parent, it's hard to tell because the parent looks like they're caring for their kid, like any parent should. So actually diagnosing them with Munchausen by proxy is difficult because they just look like a normal, caring parent. Although they do sometimes seem to be over worried about the kid's symptoms. Like small things seem like a big deal that need to be brought to light all the time because they feel like every symptom must be important because they caused it. They want it to be recognized. Another thing is that the parent might seem depressed or anxious. And then another thing to look out for is their past. They could have possibly been abused, maybe by Munchausen by proxy, or when they were younger, they had just regular Munchausen syndrome, and then it eventually evolved into Munchausen by proxy. So why would somebody do this? Well, there's no one set cause, but there are theories. Like for instance, some people think it's because they want attention from others, especially from doctors. Another theory is they like deceiving others, especially healthcare professionals. They get a sense of power from it because they are able to make a professional believe a lie, or family members, or whatever. Another is that maybe they were abused as a kid, so that carried over into their adult life, and now they inflict it upon their children. Some think it's just simply a psychological or biological imbalance in the head, and that there's no other cause. And then another one that's not super common, but does exist, is that in a marriage or relationship, if the father, for instance, wants to leave, the mother, instead of fixing the relationship or trying to change anything, will instead make the kid sick. So that way the father comes back because, of course, the father cares for the kid and wouldn't want to leave them while they're sick. So, just all in all, it's messed up. The reasons for it don't justify it, but that's the best we have. So who does it affect and how? Well, mostly it just affects the child. It affects them because they have to constantly go to the doctors, and no matter what treatment is given to them, it's completely useless. They always have really, really bizarre symptoms, and usually the child is vomiting and has diarrhea because of ipecac or some other type of poison introduced by the parent. And sadly, sometimes the kids also have apnea because of suffocation through the parent. Are there any effects on the parents? Not really, except that they become really good at lying because they have to lie to professionals and friends and family all the time. They find really bizarre ways to poison their child. And another thing is usually they should have some sort of medical knowledge because they don't want to kill their child. So they need to make sure that they don't accidentally kill them. So they need to understand medical stuff in order to prevent that from happening. So is there any treatment for this? And yes, step one is to remove the child. Absolutely get rid of that kid. Get them out of there. They are in danger and the parent is in danger of slipping back to hurting them if the kid is present. So you need to get them removed by the police or social services or a foster family, something. They need to be away from the parent. And even though that sometimes hurts the parent, in the end it's for the best. Step two is to get the parent into psychotherapy or just regular therapy, something to help them figure out why they're doing this. Even though that's the most effective way, it's not necessarily the best because usually the parent is already used to lying and they almost become a pathological liar. So it's hard to tell if they're telling the truth during therapy sessions. So finding a root and a cause is very difficult because you can't tell if they're fabricating it all just to get through it. And then usually through therapy, you find out that the parent is aware of their behavior, but they won't acknowledge it. So they know that their kid is getting sick because of something they're doing, but they will not say that they're the one hurting the kid, that they're the one poisoning the kid. It's like they won't admit it. And then, so sadly, treatment is rarely successful. And that's because this isn't a very widespread syndrome. So not a lot of work has been conducted to help solve it and treat it. And it's hard to treat because the syndrome itself is so bizarre and twisted. So it's hard to understand, which makes it hard to treat. So are there any other cool facts that we should know about this horrible twisted thing? And well, there are some cool ones, I guess you could call them, but usually they're just kind of sad. But you're going to hear them anyway. For instance, of the parents who have Munchausen by proxy, 85% of them are the mother. Most of the kids affected are of preschool age. They're really young. Although sometimes cases have gone on until the kid is 16 years old. But sadly, 9% of the child victims die due to Munchausen by proxy. That's it for the sad one. Here's some kind of cool. So the word by proxy means through a substitute. So instead of the parent hurting themselves, which would be Munchausen syndrome, they will instead harm their child, which would be the substitute, by proxy. And even though this condition usually goes undetected, it only makes up about 1,000 out of 25 million abuse cases. It's not good that it exists, but it's not a large chunk of all the abuse cases, so that's something good, right? Well, that's all, folks. Thank you for watching and listening to this sad, dark, twisted, not so happy video. I appreciate it.